What's a sign that things are about to get real bad real quick? When someone who's been doing the job a whole hell of a lot longer than you have looks frustrated or nervous. My dad used to work for a pharmaceutical plant. It was dangerous work, but their foreman was always calm and had never been known to make drama out of anything, even chemical spills. One day, the foreman got a call from his wife. Their newborn daughter was in the ER, suspected meningitis, didn't look like she'd make it. He dropped the phone, said nothing, and literally ran the half-mile across the plant out to the car park to get to the hospital. When he stopped and pulled out his keys, he looked back and saw a dozen or so others running towards their own cars, including my dad. They thought that the only thing that would make that man that nervous was a full-on meltdown, so they weren't sticking around either. His daughter lived and is now a successful engineer, so they still find the story funny. To answer all the questions I'm getting in one go, she did have meningitis and was extremely ill, but pulled through completely unexpectedly. This was Ireland, early 90s, so there was no real protocol or experience for meltdown or severe chemical spills. They obviously had extensive training, but no one genuinely expected it. Bonus fun facts about the story: the guy's nickname before all this was Turbo. This was a joke because this guy only stood up for lunch. These were not fit young, college-aged men. They were all in their 30s or 40s, used to sitting down and doing very little hands-on work with the substances. Think a dozen or so Homer Simpsons sprinting to their cars. Homer being my dad's hard-earned nickname. A few of them did drive him to the hospital so that he didn't have to worry about parking. They also brought the girl, her sister, and her family teddy bears and basic necessities while they were staying in hospital so that they were comfortable. They named a new protocol after her. It deals with emergency evacuation procedures. It's a serious procedure, but the naming was a deliberate joke by upper management. They even brought her in when she was about 2 to do an honorary ribbon-cutting type thing. When someone asks to speak with you somewhere else rather than just to tell you immediately. My former boss always did this, like, "Ted, we need to talk. Can you come to my conference room, pal?" I'd anxiously go in there. "Ted, you still have vacation days left from last year. Please find 3 days to take them in the next 3 months or they expire." That went in a very different direction than most interactions where the boss asks to speak to you discreetly. Happy for you, the rest of us should maintain vigilance when those fateful words are uttered. A work-based warning sign? Once they stop doing the fringe benefits. The biggest warnings is usually the free coffee. Once that goes away, it's done. The free coffee never went away, however, everyone in middle management, the holiday party, quarterly dividends, retirement, 401k match, overtime, hourly production bonuses, raises, morale, leisure environment, vice presidents, half our department, overtime pay after 5 hours for drivers and messengers, promotions, breaks, branch meetings, and monthly practice ammo. I'm sure I've left some things out. Overall, it was an interesting ride. Gotta love giving back to their shareholders. If you are having an argument on the street and the guy's friends slowly work their way behind you, that's a bad sign. It's about to go south. When the ones in senior management with a conscience start saying things like, "It's always a good habit to keep your resume current," or, "I hear the job market is really strong right now." I had a buddy printing off his letter of resignation at work. His immediate manager walked into the room and caught a glimpse of what it was. He told him that he should probably just hang on to that and give it to him at the end of the day. Really emphasized end of day. HR called him a couple of hours later and laid him off with a year's pay. You get that strange watery feeling in the back of your throat, the universal "I'm about to hurl" feeling. That's your saliva production increasing to protect the lining of your esophagus from the acids in your stomach. It's an automatic reaction that's a prelude to vomiting. It's a pretty bad sign when the locals all clear out. When the drunk bloke you're having an argument with takes a good long look at your shoes, I can guarantee you he's gonna sucker punch you. Bonus points if you suddenly get a tingly feeling in your stomach. When you're doing the deed and someone says, "Uh-oh," probably not what you meant, but I can confirm. With 2 young kids, hearing "uh-oh" from the other room when my wife and I are doing it is the biggest mood killer and panic inducer there is. When they want the money before the substances, you're screwed. It's Monday, and as you enter work, there are several security guards stationed in the hallway from a company you don't recognize. Your boss tells you to stay in your cubicle until instructed to show up to the conference room, sorted by alphabet. Not everybody is called. Bonus, when you get to the conference room, you have to turn in your work badge to an armed guard to gain access. People wanted closure. Well, this was a layoff that happened at IBM in 1992 to a friend of mine. They laid off about 90% of the office. Those left were relocated to other campuses. 1. You were called into the conference room, you surrendered your badge, got alerted with a bunch of people you were to be let go. 2. Got a severance package, you signed forms, don't talk to coworkers, the press, among others, and you got 1 copier box. 3. You had 15 minutes to fill said copier box with all your personal belongings. And 4. At 15:01, ready or not, the guard grabbed you and escorted you to your car. You had to leave immediately. Some guards actually physically dragged some people out like bouncers, like old women and everything. One guy worked with the IBM and NASA moon landing team, been with Big Blue for 30 to 35 years. He couldn't fill all his pictures, awards, and all his stuff in 15 minutes, and certainly not in a copier box. He was escorted out. His stuff, like signed prints from astronauts, models of the LEM, were thrown in the dumpster, but some fellow co-workers saved most of it and gave it back to him. It was seriously an absolute cluster frick. My friend in her 50s was sobbing and shaking from the experience. If you see someone showing signs of the FAST, F. Facial drooping, A. Arm weakness, S. Slurred speech, and T. Time, pretty much means the person is having a stroke. You should call 911 because there is a 3 to 4.5 hour window that a stroke person can have a clot buster alteplase, which could end up giving patients most of their normal functions. When someone goes inside their house to get something in the middle of an argument. Alternatively, when someone goes outside to get something from their car in the middle of an argument. The sky turns green. The 3 times I've been in the area where the sky has turned really green, things have not gone well at all. Been through 2 sets of 1.5-inch hail, rain so hard you couldn't see past the windshield, and a wind that would have knocked a tornado over. I'll sit and watch thunderstorms roll in with lightning and thunder, but when things go green, I retreat. In England, someone saying, "Right," especially if it's said as they're getting out of their seat. When you put oxygen on someone and it doesn't change their blood oxygen level. Also, when a previously alert and oriented person suddenly gets confused and/or belligerent, things are about to go south fast. We need to talk. Whenever I hear this, I immediately think, oh crap. Every time I've had a bad conversation with a girl, it's always started with those very words. When you hear those words, things aren't about to go south, it's far too late and you're already doomed. Those 4 words in that order are orders of magnitude scarier than any other way of putting it. Can I have a word? Can I talk to you? And we have something to discuss are all intimidating, but none of them hold the same level of bowel-watering, ominous threat of emotional destruction as we need to talk. When you start feeling rumblings in your stomach and no bathroom around. I try to never be too far from a bathroom. When the animals freak the F out. My grandma's dog actually herded me into the basement right before an earthquake hit when I was a kid. Kelsey was a good dog. Basement is maybe a strong word, downstairs of a split level, so the downstairs is partially underground. Downstairs and upstairs have been lauded as more or less a matter of where you are when the earthquake hits, if the house is well made. But getting away from fally stuff and windows is important. So I feel safe knowing that Kelsey pushing me into getting under the pool table downstairs instead of under Grandma's china hutch upstairs was not her secretly trying to murder me. Tripping me on the stairs would have been a better way to go for that, and she was a smart dog. When upper management start leaving the company, and when they hand out last checks and ask you to stick around for the going away party, ditch the party and cash your check immediately. Do not pass go, nothing. They're worried about a run on payroll because they don't have enough for everyone and they're hoping the party will make you forget that their check will bounce. Experienced it twice in the 2000 and 2001 crash. If you're in a boat on the water and your hair starts to stand up on its own, get to land immediately. You're the highest point on a flat lake, and that is the telltale sign of static charge. Lightning is imminent, and you are the lightning rod. This happened to my family some years ago. We were fishing, it was cloudy, and a storm was an hour or so out, when suddenly all of our hair started to stand up. My dad, mum, and brother all thought it was cool and weird. I was the only one who was concerned, and I didn't know why, and said we should go back to land. They didn't listen, but apparently I put up enough of a fight that we did get off the lake. A few hours later, my parents told my brother's science teacher about that, and his eyes got wide. He said had we not left when we did, we were very likely to have been struck. When the shoreline retreats back a mile into the sea. Where I live, that's how far it goes when the tide goes out. However, as a geologist, I think it's my duty to say that not all tsunamis do this, and most tsunamis have several waves, often with the third or fourth waves being the strongest. If you live in an earthquake-prone area with a tsunami risk, don't simply rely on this or animals. Pay attention to local and international tsunami warnings. A 2-foot tsunami in Hawaii lifted a train and carried it 100 meters. Don't mess around with these things. When those little oxygen masks drop out of the ceiling. Yeah, especially if you're not on an airplane. When your captain is wearing a life jacket. When the DM says, roll initiative, but no one's around except you guys. Whenever you fail a roll that the DM asks for out of the blue, stuff's going to go very badly. Go ahead and roll perception. Oh, alright, 4. Alright, so there's nothing out of the ordinary, so you guys set up camp like normal. 3 minutes later, all of my friends are dead and half my butt is inside a dragon. You're pulled over. You hand the officer your license and registration. He goes back to the car. 2 more cop cars pull over next to you and 1 is a K9 unit. When it's 3 a.m. at IHOP and a drunk dude walks in and starts yelling at a woman who is eating pancakes with another man. You can submit your own stories to be featured here on the channel. The story submission link is in the description below, and if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out easymode, also linked below, and subscribe. When the redneck says, F that, I'm getting out of here. Like rats on a sinking ship, follow the redneck. If he ain't having it, there's no way you can handle it. When you're in a relationship and someone starts their sentence with, you always, in the middle of an argument. You aren't necessarily beyond the point of no return, but you are treading deadly water. 3 things. 1. No animals or insects in sight. 2. No wind whatsoever. Everything is still. 3. The night is quieter than the dead. It's like time froze. A huge hurricane is coming your way. Get in your car and scram. Ah yeah, in case you missed the week-long announcements about the storm that's been moving through the Caribbean Isles, people sandbagging their doorways, no bottled water being available, or cans of food on the shelves, your friends talking about the storm, or boards being put up on every shop window, that's when you look for animals and insects being gone, so that you know a Category 4 or 5 hurricane is barreling down on your butt. When you're just trying to buy a gosh darn kebab after a night on the town and some bro takes his shirt off for no apparent reason right there in that fine establishment because he thinks someone bumped into him on purpose, and according to the bro code, he now has to fight someone to the death because of reasons. And even with the audible sigh from literally everyone in the surrounding, tired and hungry crowd, he simply does not take the gosh darn hint that everyone is giving him to just chill already. The pilot tells the flight attendants to sit down, or when the flight attendants look worried. They know the difference between regular turbulence and holy crap turbulence, or an actual problem that you should be scared of. Yep, I love those flights where things begin to get a little bit bumpy and you see the flight attendants walk briskly down the aisle staring straight ahead with looks of utter seriousness on their faces. Nothing like it for stirring the panic. When the weather gets really beautiful, you've got a good chunk of money in the bank and your car has 0 problems. He turns his hat back in the midst of battle. When they close the doors and start to play The Rains of Castamere. Minnesotan here, when you hear a train when there's no train around, chances are you're going to start seeing trees flying within minutes. Here's a few of mine. An angry person starts saying, if you don't, or I swear I'm about to. They're warning you to back off, they're about to lose their temper. When you have 15 missed calls from a parent. When you hear voices getting louder and louder and louder. Alternatively, when a previously loud person suddenly goes silent or doesn't laugh at your joke. I think it was Dimitri Martin that said something like, adults aren't allowed to climb trees. If you see some kids in a tree, you don't think twice. But if you see adults in a tree, you think, I don't know what's going on here, but I need to get in a fricking tree now. When your highest-ranking general crosses the Rubicon with a large army. I have a run of good luck, surefire sign things are about to go bad. That just happened to me. Finally took a nice vacation after years, came back feeling great, and a week later, I was fired. They cancel more plans than usual with differing excuses, and they start to ignore you without warning. If there are 2 Jan Michael Vincents in one quadrant. Tornado sirens at night usually mean it's going to be a long evening. When your teacher has a smug look on their face and says, "Put away your notes, class," you can look around the room and see the fear in our eyes because nobody has studied for a pop quiz. Or if you hear a loud, obnoxious voice behind you saying, "Oh my God, is that you, blank? It's been such a long time." When the angry guy who got kicked out of the party goes out to his car and then walks back in all calm. Get the F out of there because he's about to start shooting. You're in a canoe down the river and banjo music starts playing. Jim Cantor of the Weather Channel shows up. When she puts her hair back with a hair tie. Wait, I might be thinking about something else. 3 things. When a folding chair is thrown into a crowd, when shots are fired, or when she says, "We need to talk." 1. Angry crowds. In Afghanistan, we were clearing out IEDs and I was in a vantage point to cover my bomb squad and the rest of our unit. I turned around to grab something from my bag and this large crowd was out of my hearing range, but I could see the swarm going down the streets, gathering more people as it progressed. I signaled my guys to pack it up. We got out just in time. Our APC was Molotoved as it was leaving. All that because of an earlier event where an IED went off and hurt some people. It wasn't even our team or even our country, but it didn't matter. And 2, maybe it's a trick of the mind, but stuff tends to slow right the frick down and a weird silence drops. That feeling is fricking terrifying. Faster flowing water. Conspicuous overconsumption. The housing bubble was the most recent example of this. People getting into mortgages and houses they couldn't afford. The dot-com bust before that was rife with startups that slung money like Elvis slung pink convertibles. When the patient says they're gonna die, a sense of impending doom is a bad sign. Stuff is about to go down south. Not today is what I usually say, and sometimes I'm right. I once heard a story from a doctor quite similar to that. He said that patients screaming and saying that they're going to die usually don't. He said one patient he had suddenly went quiet, leaned back into his seat and glassed over. The doctor said that's when you get that sense of impending doom that just makes you go cold. All the staff in the room went from, "Okay, let's get this guy patched up," to, "Oh, frick." You're the manager of a store. You open at 10 a.m. As you open your gates at 10 a.m., the phone rings at 10:01 a.m. You pick up the phone and before you begin your usual spiel, "Thank you for calling Superstore the caller starts with the word, "Look." When the calmest, most reasonable dude who is never worried gets worried. Yep, as a somewhat anxious human being, this is very true. The rest of us look to the chill guys and gals in our lives as a barometer for how screwed we're about to be. I just think it's funny how it's never funny. When your Reinhard swaps to a Hanzo. When a herd of animals are headed towards higher ground, it's probably a good idea to follow them. When your grandmother, who's been living with stage 4 cancer for the past 2 months, says she realizes the pain will be ending soon because her oncologist at this point isn't sugarcoating how long she has anymore. The fact she also says she's tired of hurting and ready for the hurting to stop cements the reality of the fragility of life and how important simply treasuring other people is. Love as much and as hard as you can. Sincerely, a sad grandson. When one of my idiot friends says, "Hold my beer." When Coca-Cola pulls distribution of its product in an area. When mid-level management is bailing en masse. When you're out drinking with your buddies and you run into a girl that had history with 2 of the guys. Saturday night for us reached south in record time. Don't forget to scrub your accounts, kiddos. Wouldn't want anything of value falling into the hands of the shareholders. When your coworker starts getting the attitude of, "I do everything around here." They get the martyr complex going. "I'm the only person who can do that. You guys would be lost without me." This person is making it known that their morale at work is bad, and bad morale is contagious. I was that guy. I got fired. Best lesson I ever learned. No one is irreplaceable. Went on to management. Shared that story a few times instead of firing employees that may have deserved it. It also gave me the confidence to fire top performers that deserve to be fired. No one is irreplaceable. When your floor manager clocks in and every day says, "Is it 5:30 yet?" No, dude, it's not. You get paid twice as much as I do and you're literally destroying the morale of everyone on the floor under you. When a Marine says, "That is stupid and I want no part of it," and leaves. When every dog in the neighborhood starts barking like crazy. My sign that things are about to go south? 1. Go to the North Pole. 2. Take a step in any direction. When you've been drinking a lot and you have to keep spitting, you're about to hurl up. The character who always has his eyes closed opens his eyes. I'd like you to meet Sanjay. He's visiting from our facility in India, and I'd like you to show him how to do your job. As a nurse and healthcare professional, when your patient tells you that something just feels wrong, or they feel like they're going to die, stuff's about to go south real fast. Case in point, my little old lady patient called me into her room the other night and said that she was nervous and needed to pray, then proceeded to do the sign of the cross. I noped out of there so fast and called her doctor to tell her they needed to see her now. Sure enough, she coded about 15 minutes later. When Dad is going to get ice cream and nothing else. That's always bad news. Your mom and I are getting a divorce. Sparky got out somehow, and we won't be going to see your grandma anymore. When the music changes. You're in a bar, and some guy looking crazy comes in the door. He looks around and locks his eye on a couple and yells, "What the frick are you doing with my wife?" When the weather starts getting colder and you look up into the sky only to see a large flock of birds that happen to be traveling in one specific direction. When you turn up to a job interview and the interviewer is holding a video camera and you're asked to sit on a black leather couch. Well, for my coworkers, it's usually me saying, "We need to leave now." Anytime I've left, there was something that happened, such as a cleaning detail, higher-ranking people coming into our shop and getting angry for no reason, uniform inspections, or any number of stupid military stuff. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories, or if you want some vibey music to put on in the background, check out easymode. If you like Am I the Genius, give Am I the Jerk a shot. Everything linked in the description.